Hey, good morning. It's mid-August and wanted to share some methods of growing shiitake mushrooms, and particularly growing outside. So we're coming up to kind of our laying yard, the Fungi Ally laying yard. You can see we've got our sawdust production blocks, lots of logs, our soak tanks, logs stacked up in crib stacks, and logs against the fence where they're fruiting. Um, and we're basically fruiting in three different ways here. We're growing shiitake mushrooms in three different ways. And I wanted to kind of slowly walk through each of those ways. The first one over here, we've got some nice pins that are popping out of these sawdust blocks. You can see the baby mushrooms that are starting to fruit out of these. And these are a mixture of sawdust and wheat bran that we produced in our sterile lab and are now fruiting for the second time. So we do a first flush indoors, and then we let them rest for 14 days, 10 days, and bring them outside for a second flush. They tend to get a little bit more moldy on the second flush, so they like it outside where there's a lot of airflow and the exterior bark can dry out. You can see on some of these there is a little bit of surface mold. It's not a big deal. They're still really vibrant. You can see this block is very, it's hard for me to break into. And when I break it open, there's still plenty of the white mycelium that's in this. So the blocks are still well myceliated even when they have a little bit of that blue mold on the exterior, and that kind of just dries out as long as you let the blocks dry out a little bit. So this is one of the things that we're doing, and we're really just fruiting these outside. There's no barrier, and we'll spray them once a day to kind of keep humidity up. Or this summer we've had so much rain that just natural rainfall has kept the humidity high and allowed these blocks to start pinning again. On average, we're getting outdoors a second flush of around a half a pound. So it's really passive block production where these blocks continue to produce just outside, sitting on the ground. So it's a great way to grow mushrooms, and if you are blessed to live near a mushroom farm, sometimes they'll sell these for $1 or give them away because they'd just be composting them. So you can ask mushroom farms for their second flush shiitake blocks, and if you're buying grow kits from any sort of mushroom farm or from us at Fungi Ally, definitely fruit the kits multiple times, and it's good to fruit them outside where there's a little more airflow. Second way of cultivation that we've got over here is the logs. So why don't we come over? This is the logs in incubation. So we have them in these crib stacks where they're alternately arranged on the ground. We pretty much always put two at the very bottom. You can see we've got these two logs at the bottom of the stack on the ground, and then we're alternating doing Lincoln log style. And you can see on the ends here, this is the mycelium growing, right? So we've got it growing out right on the end, and it's in line with the inoculation hole. So this is where we inoculated, and here on the end of the log you can see the mycelium growing, and then again right here we've got an inoculation hole. We've got an inoculation hole right there, and on the end, boom, mycelium right in line with that inoculation hole. So pretty cool to see the mycelium growing on these logs. These are ones that we did in February. So inoculated them early, I guess late winter, and they're taking off. So these are the crib stacks, and then when we go to fruit them, we soak them in these tubs. Right now we're soaking the sawdust blocks, but these are 300-gallon stock tanks, and we'll just soak the logs for 24 hours in these stock tanks and then bring them over to the fence. Our latest flush is still up here. We already went through all these and picked the mushrooms, and so we're not seeing any mushrooms, but we basically just stand the logs up like this so that we can access all the fruiting mushrooms. So we'll just stand them up, and then when they're done fruiting, return them back to that crib stack sort of setup. So we have some moving of logs to do, but there's always stuff to move when you're mushroom farming. The third way, so we've got the sawdust blocks doing second fruiting out here. We've got the shiitake logs, and then the third way is totems. And totems are nice. They're a really simple process. And basically what you do is we've got one on the ground right here, and you basically just take a 1 foot section, right? So here's one standing here. Take a 1 foot section right here and put spawn at the bottom, and then we've got another 1 foot section on top of this, and this was filled with spawn as well when we inoculated it. So we've got spawn on the bottom, 1 foot section, spawn, another 1 foot section, and these are attached by some nails, and then at the top another layer of spawn and kind of this 2-inch disc. And during incubation, for the first 2 months after we inoculate this, we keep a paper bag over the top so that the mycelium has a chance to grow into the logs. And these we just kind of let rest here. We don't shock these. Just when natural rainfall hits, we'll start fruiting them. This one's got a really great competitor, competing insects and contamination that came in, and it's actually turkey tail. So we've got a beautiful medicinal mushroom that's growing instead of shiitakes that we'll harvest and make tea and tincture out of. So if we're gonna have contamination, turkey tail, this great medicinal mushroom, is a pretty awesome one to have. So instead of shiitakes obviously are great for food and easy to sell at markets, but if we're gonna have contamination, turkey tail is a really great one to be coming in. And we have about, 50 totems here, and there's only 2 or 3 that have turkey tail growing out on them. So it's not too high of a inoculation or a contamination rate. And this process, the totem process, is really simple and really easy. It's quick. So that's nice compared to the log cultivation where you're drilling all the holes and filling them up. So that's what we've got going on back here in our laying yard. Lots of shiitake produced back here, and lots of mushrooms fruiting. So it's a good thing, and easy ways to grow shiitake mushrooms in your backyard. This is primarily a deciduous canopy. There's a little bit of pines right over here, and during the winter we'll keep the logs stacked under these pines to keep a full year-round shade. But for fruiting, this deciduous canopy works out great.